Okay, let's get started. Let me check if I'm recording. Yeah, recording. Okay, so hi everyone, welcome back to lab. So this is the lab 2, the second lab of Business Real 2. So in this lab, we will be talking about SQL. So I know in your recent lecture, you have covered SQL, and so this lab will give you the opportunity to write some queries yourself and how to use SQL in Python. So let me help you to get to your Python script. So this is your Business Real 2 modules. So that's the first step. Please let me know if you don't follow me or if you have any questions. So this is Business Real 2, the modules. Yes, can you see my share, right? I'm sharing, yeah. Okay, so and you can go down to the week 2, hypothesis testing and SQL. Click overview, week 2. And in week 2, on the bottom line, you can see you can access a copy of this week's lab through shared Google Drive. Then you click Google Drive. After click Google Drive, you can find this link here, Google Drive folder for Business Real 2 lab, and click that. So after you click that, you can see the lab 02 here. Click this one. And before this, you will have to sign in to your Google account. Like I'm Jackie Liu, so I'm signing here. You have to sign in before you do this. And then double click this. So this is the collab I introduced in the last lab. And it will give you it will show you how you can get to the lab 2. But so inside of the script, the first thing you need to do is you can't do any write anything here, but you can have a copy of it to save it in your local, so not save it in your drive so that you can write code in it. So how to do this is click the file and save a copy in drive. Click this because I have already saved a copy, so I don't have to do it. But you need to do it. Save a copy in drive. And finally, you will get something like this. This is what I said. Yeah, you will get this. Yeah, so you'll get a copy of O2 Lab SQL IPYNB. And this is what you're supposed to get. Okay, so if you're ready, let's move on to today's lesson. So the first thing we're going to do is to download the data. And then we see the lab 2 SQL within this lab. So so you can ignore this, but you have to run this. So to run the code of the cell, you need to click this button, the run cell, or you can do a click Control Enter. Run this. So this is just a function to help us to download the SQL data. So click this. Yeah, and it may take some time to run it, but after you see the green tick here, then that means you have run this, and you can move on to the next. This is the video I made. So for the lab 1, so you don't need to worry about this. And then let's move on to some libraries. So in this lesson, we're going to use 3 libraries. The first one is pandas. So pandas is one data frame in Python that developed by some developer. Pandas is like it's the data type like Excel. We have rows, columns, and that is the that is a class that can save data into your into the Python. And the SQL alchemy. So the second library is the SQL alchemy. The SQL alchemy is the link between Python and your SQL. And the third one is the path, so where you save your document or save your SQL document. So we import these three libraries and then move on to the download database. So in this cell, first, we need to give it a URL of the data. So this is the URL of the data. So we save it to the div URL, and then we need to give the file name of the data, which is this one. And then we will give we have to save it somewhere, right? So the data dir is the data directory. We will save it in the path, and we give the name of the data. And then we use this function, which is the we created before. This function is the web scraping function that help us to download data. So here we call this function with this three argument. And then finally we save it in our local path in this collab. We run this. I can see downloading, and you will see it done. Yeah. So when after you see downloading and done, that means you have already downloaded the data to this to your drive, which is the collab. And then after you download data, the next step is to use the SQL alchemy to link your SQL file to your to Python. So we need to create an engine object, which is one method of this SQL alchemy object. So this is the object, and it has a method called create engine. And what we need to put inside of the braces is the path. It's the path where you save it. And then you get your engine object. Then you use one of the method of engine to make a connection between your collab, the Python collab, to your SQL file. So you can execute this, and then we have a connection. So after we have a connection, we can check if everything's working of the table. So instead of the engine, we can give it the method called table names to check the name of that SQL tables. If we run this, you will see we have three tables. Here we have a candidate table, commit table, and individual sample table. Yeah, so that's three tables in our SQL data. And then we can have a look at the table description. So like I said, we have three tables. The first one, is the candidate table. It contains name and party affiliation. And the commit table, it contains commit name and type. And for the individual sample New City table, it has it includes all the individual contribution from the New York City. So so to check the information of each table, we need a for loop. So what we're doing here is because we have a connection, right? We have built our connection. We use this execute the method of the connection. We use this method to execute the SQL query. So this SQL query what this SQL query do is to select the SQL from the SQL master to actually check the information. So for each table, we want to check information. So we'll need a for loop to do this, to execute this SQL query, and then print this information. So if we do this, then we can see we have the information of 3 tables. The first table is the candidate table, and each line is their attribute, or we can call it column name. So we have like candidate ID, candidate name, party affiliation, something, and we have the data type for each of the attribute, each of the column. And we can also see this is the commit table with its attribute and data type. Also, similarly for the individual sample, New York City, you can check all the information inside, which is great. And then let's move on to how you can use query in Python. So when you're trying to use query, you need to make it a string like this. So normally, the strings, the string has different version in Python. So normally, if you have like a string in one line, like if you have an apple, then you only need this sign to do this strings in one line. But if you want it to be multiple lines, like you know, the apple, then you cannot use this. You can see that it's red, right under the bar here. So you cannot use this sign to have multiple lines string. So what we need to do is use this to make it as a full string. So that's why we need to use this here. So here we want to select everything, select our columns from the individual sample in our city, but we only want to see it 5 rows. And then after we make our query, we need to put it in the pandas. We want our pandas to read it, because if you only put the query, our Python cannot read this. We need something to actually read this query. So what we're going to do is use pandas. Like I said, pandas is data frame. So you can see the result here. This is the pandas. Well, this is how it looks of the pandas. There's pandas to read the SQL query. So the read SQL is the master of this pandas file, of this pandas object. And the first argument put here is the query. You create this one. And the second is the engine you create here. Yeah, the engine you create, how you link it. So you need your query and your engine to actually show what we select in Python. So run this, then you will get the 5 rows of everything you select. There are many columns and 5 rows. Yeah. And similarly, you can do it for the candidate table, and everything the same. You can check their rows and columns. And we can check some information about the commit table with the same code and only change table name in the query. Yeah, and sometimes we don't want to see all the columns. So for example, if we only want to see the candidate ID and candidate name, then I only select this 2 column. And also, if I want to specify, I want the candidate party affiliation to be demographic. I want to see that, so I can create a where clause, and then still limit it 5. And after that, we can select only two columns. So I know you have learned this SQL before, so this part is just for you to give you a review of it. But all other part are the same, like how to use Python to see it. Basically, just this function, the read SQL by the pandas. Okay, let's move on to the question one. So for this question, we'll use the SQL to extract data out of the individual sample city table. Sorry. And the scheme for this table is given below. Like we ask you to select the SQL from the SQL master, where the name is the individual sample NYC, and we want to check all the information about this NYC table. This is the information. That's not the question. The question is here. So let's start by looking at the 2016 election contribution made by Donald Trump. So who was a New York City, New York resident during that year. So the following SQL statement return the commit ID and the transaction amount and name for every contribution made by any donor with Donald and Trump and in their name. So yeah, so to select this, we use the where function to check because the like can select the information we want. We want the Trump, we want Donald, so we want both these two, and we select the information we want to select this 3 column where the name is like Donald and Trump. But when you see the result, you can see that some of them are actually Donald Trump, but some of them are not, like this Donald J. Trump for President INC. I think it's kind of like a company, it's not actually Donald Trump. So our first question, so before that, we can do a value count of this table, like of this result, the value count. The value count function actually tells you how many rows of each of the values. We can see that this INC has 15 rows named this INC. And the target of our first question is to remove the 15 values. So question here is revise the bulk query so that the 15 donation made by this INC do not appear. So the resulting table should have 142 rows. And here the hint. You will be given 5 minutes to do this, and then I'll show my answer to your question. Let me have a look at the chat. Yeah, you can start doing this question 1A, and I'll have a look at your chat. Again, that we will use SQL Lite. Sorry, I can't unmute because I'm at the coffee. Super noisy here. Andrew, no worries. I can't hear anything from you. And no, I mean on my side, I can unmute myself to speak PC. So I use SQLite. Do you mean SQLite? Yeah, yes. And I can unmute myself to speak PC. Maybe. Yeah, if you want to unmute, you can. Don't worry. Okay, let's get back to see how I think about this. So, the only thing I changed in our query is I add this and name not like INC, because if you check all the values here, you will see the only difference between this value and other value are, for example, this president or INC, which is the special part of the value. So I choose INC. You can also choose president or for be here to make it and name not like this, to select everything except this one. So if you run this, you will see that now we have 142 rows with 3 columns. Okay, let's move on to the question 1B. So after review of some of the key ideas from podcast, let's define our theory about. We see that many contributions above were to the same commit. Yeah, for example, the 482, they have the same commit, right? Or the bottom side. So we need to create a new SQL query that returns total amount that Donald Trump contributed to each commit. The table should have 4 columns: commit ID, total amount, number donation, and commit name. So the total amount is the total amount contributed to that commit. And number of donation is the total number of donation. Commit name is the name of the commit. Now the name of the commit is not available in the individual sampling or city. So you will have to somehow put information from the commit table. So your final table should be sorted in the decrease order of the total amount. And here are the hints you can use. And yeah, you will need all of it. This one's really difficult, so I'll give you 10 minutes and then I'll start to analyze how I think and how to answer this one. Hi, Jasmine.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah, I'm sorry. We have finished half of the course and we are in the question 1B now.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Does anyone don't know that how I can get to this script, Python script? If you don't know, I can show you again. And for the rest of you, you can continue on this question. Okay, let's talk about this. So the first thing we need to think is because this commit name is not available in the individual sample in your city table. So we will have to use the commit table. So the first thing I write is to use this two table from individual sample in your city and the commit. And after we get things from this two table, we can do like the first we select the commit ID from no matter commit table or individual sample MIC table. But what we'll do is to specify that we want this commit ID is equal to the NYC commit ID. Use this where function. And then we get this ID select. And to calculate the sum of the transaction amount, we need this group by. So for each of this commit ID, we group by so that we can have values like this, but it is the ID for each one. And we can do count. We can calculate the transaction amount with the sum function to sum the total amount for each ID. And then we name it the total amount. And we also count how many for each, how many transactions for each of the ID as the number of relations. And also we can give it a commit name. And finally, because the final table should be sorted in decrease order, so we need to order it by the total amount in the descent order. So if you execute this, you will get this table. Don't worry about this code because I'll upload today's recording to Canvas so that you can have a look. So let's move on to the question 2. So I can see this. Yeah, 2A. So this is about how to the drawing. So we'll print the scheme of the table. You may notice that both the candidate table and commit table have the candidate ID column. So let's try to join these two tables on the column. So what you will do is to list the first 5 candidate name in the reverse alphabet order by the candidate name along with the corresponding commit name. So but this is important. You need to only select rows that have a matching candidate ID in both tables. And your output should look similar to this. You will have 5 minutes to do this one. And then I'll show my answer. Okay, let's have a look at the my answer and my analysis. So the key information is this one. Only select rows that have a match candidate ID in both tables. So that means we need an inner join. So the inner join means we need to join two tables with the common part, right? And because we need rows that have matching in both tables, so we need an inner join. So similar before, we select candidate name and the commit name. At the same time, we from the candidate table, we name it as C1, inner join the commit table, name it as C2 on the C1's candidate ID is equal to C2's candidate ID. Give it a discrete order, limited 5. This is what it looks like. And okay, let's move on to our last question, which is quite similar to the 2A. So as in the previous part, list the 5 candidate name by reverse alphabet order and their corresponding commit names. But this time include all candidate names. If there is no matching candidate ID in the commit table, then the commit name should be none. And your output looks similar to this. And my hint for this question is very easy compared to the last one, because my hint is you only need to change one word from this query to this one. Yeah, you will be given 3 minutes to do this. Okay, let's check my answer. So the only thing we need to change is from the inner join to left join, because this time we want to include all the candidates. So we first from the candidate C1, we want everything from it, and to left join the commit table, so that it can has a so after the join it has out names from the candidate. And for those who cannot be matched for the commit, then it will show the none. That'll be none. Yeah. So after run this, you will get this table. Candidate name, commit name was one none at the row number 4. Yeah, so that's everything for today's lab. In the next lab, we will learn pandas, the data frame, new data frame. So let me know if you have any questions today. And yeah, that's the end of the this step. Yeah, I'll stop recording.